Have you ever tried to convince a stubborn person and ended up more frustrated than when you started? What if I told you there's a way to turn difficult people into allies without using a single confrontational word? Judge Ōoka, said Kenji, clearly frustrated. I've spoken to Hiroshi dozens of times. I've shown him the documents, brought witnesses, even offered him money to move the fence, but he shouts, bangs his fist on the table, and says the land has always been his. The man is impossible. Ōoka listened attentively and then asked, Kenji-san, tell me about Hiroshi. What is he known for in the neighborhood? Well, Kenji hesitated. He's stubborn, proud, but I admit he's hardworking. He takes care of his elderly mother alone and never hesitates to help when someone needs to carry something heavy. Ōoka smiled subtly. Interesting. Now tell me, what does Hiroshi value most in life? Respect from others, I suppose. He always talks about how he built everything with his own hands and how he knows this land better than any document. The next day, Ōoka went to Hiroshi's property, but not to talk about the fence. Instead, he spent hours listening to the man tell stories about how he had transformed the barren land into a thriving garden, how he took care of his sick mother, and how proud he was of his reputation as a hard-working and honest man. At the end of the conversation, Ōoka said, Hiroshi-san, it's impressive how you've transformed this land. A man of your wisdom and honor certainly understands that true strength lies in doing what is right, even when it's difficult. Hiroshi nodded, visibly touched by the recognition. Then Ōoka added, I'm sure that if there was any misunderstanding about the land boundaries, a man of integrity like you would be the first to correct it. After all, your reputation is worth more than any piece of land. A week later, Hiroshi approached Kenji and, without admitting the mistake directly, said that he had re-examined the old markers and discovered that the fence should be repositioned. He moved it to the correct spot himself and even planted flowers along the new boundary as a gesture of good neighborliness. The wisdom behind the strategy, what Ōoka did in this situation, perfectly illustrates one of the most powerful principles in human psychology and Eastern philosophy. When we face resistance, the problem rarely lies in the logic of our arguments, but rather in the way we approach the other person's ego. Think about it, Kenji was absolutely right. He had documents, witnesses, evidence. But the more he pushed with facts, the more Hiroshi shut down. Why? Because every logical argument was interpreted by Hiroshi as an attack on his competence, his honor, his identity. Ōoka understood something fundamental that the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu taught over 2,500 years ago. Water overcomes the stone not by its force, but by its persistence and ability to go around obstacles. Instead of confronting Hiroshi head-on as one force against another, Ōoka flowed like water around the resistance. The principle of strategic validation. Ōoka's genius lay in recognizing that Hiroshi was not truly a difficult person. He was a wounded person. His stubbornness was armor to protect his self-esteem. When someone questioned his knowledge about the land, they were not just correcting an error, they were attacking the foundation of his identity. Aristotle, in his Art of Rhetoric, taught us that there are three pillars of persuasion: logos, logic; pathos, emotion; and ethos, credibility. Kenji was focused only on logos, facts, and documents. But Ōoka began with ethos, establishing credibility through genuine respect, and touched on pathos, recognizing Hiroshi's feelings and dignity. How to apply this in your life when you come across someone impossible, whether it's a stubborn colleague, a family member who never admits mistakes, or a difficult customer. Pause and ask yourself, what does this person most need to protect? Which aspect of their identity is being threatened? Instead of attacking with more logic, try Ōoka's approach. Find something genuine to value in the person. Hiroshi really was hardworking and dedicated to his mother. Ōoka didn't invent qualities, he recognized them. Even the most difficult person has admirable aspects. Look for them. Connect the behavior you want with the person's existing values. Ōoka didn't say, you are wrong about the fence. He said, a man of integrity like you certainly does what is right. He made the change in behavior compatible with Hiroshi's positive self-image. Allow the person to save face. Hiroshi didn't admit the mistake. He said he had re-examined the old markers. Ōoka gave him a graceful exit. Sometimes the wisest victory is one that allows everyone to feel dignified. The deepest lesson, the philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever you want to find joy, consider the good qualities of your companions." Ōoka didn't just apply this wisdom, he went further. He used it as a tool for transformation. The truth is, difficult people are rarely inherently bad. They are people who feel misunderstood, undervalued, or threatened. When you stop trying to beat them and start trying to understand them, the whole game changes. This doesn't mean being naive or allowing abuse. It means being strategically smart about how you approach conflicts. It means recognizing that the greatest strength doesn't lie in breaking the other person's resistance, but in dissolving it. The power of active patience. Confucius taught us that those who are slow to speak and quick to listen will be honored by all. Ōoka spent hours listening to Hiroshi's stories before even mentioning the problem. He invested time in understanding before seeking to be understood. How many times have you tried to resolve a conflict without truly understanding the other person's perspective? How many discussions could have been avoided if you had started by asking, "Help me understand your point of view," instead of explaining why the other person was wrong? Transforming adversaries into allies, the final result of Ōoka's strategy, was even more powerful than simply resolving the conflict. Hiroshi didn't just move the fence, he planted flowers along the new boundary as a gesture of good neighborliness. He transformed from an adversary into an ally. This is the true magic of handling difficult people the right way. You don't just solve the immediate problem, you build stronger relationships for the future. You turn destructive dynamics into collaborative ones. Your new tool. Next time you face an impossible person, remember Ōoka and Hiroshi. Ask yourself, how can I honor this person's dignity while solving this problem? The answer isn't to be stronger or smarter. It's to be wiser, more compassionate, and more strategic. The true victory is not proving you're right. It's creating a situation where everyone can be right, where everyone can maintain their dignity, and where the problem resolves naturally because you knew how to touch not just the mind but the human heart behind the resistance. Now think about a difficult person in your life. What could you genuinely recognize and value in them? How about trying Ōoka's approach this week? Share in the comments how your experience went. Sometimes the biggest transformations start with small changes in the way we see others.